What's up, everyone? This is Kronos, aka Adam. I am back with episode 3. As I was saying previously, what we're going to do here is each week we're going to do one episode for WWE Week in Review. This episode will be AEW's Week in Review for 420. Yes, I know. Hopefully you all got to celebrate. I am Kronos, aka Adam. And here we go. So the episode 2 is up on the channel right now. You can find me there at my social media. Check it out. Let me know what you thought. I thought it went a little long, so hopefully I'm going to try to figure out ways to kind of reduce the time. And for AEW, this one will be a little shorter because what I plan on doing is doing a review of BTE, Dark, and AEW Dynamite. Obviously, my first episode, I reviewed BTE episode 200, so I'm obviously not going to really go into that. Dark itself is a shorter episode, and then there's only Dynamite, which is 2 hours. So this should go a little shorter. So we're going to jump right into it. Obviously, I'll be looking at my notes because I made a lot of notes. I want to keep this professional. Still working out all the kinks on this. I can see the glare in my glasses that I have to try and figure out to make it a little better. Also, stay at the end. There's always a post-credit scene in my videos. I'm trying to do something a little different. Hopefully you find them entertaining, funny, or even stupid. Doesn't matter. You can always let me know. Anyway, alright, so as I said, normally I would start off with BTE, but because I already reviewed BTE episode 200, that is episode 1 up on the channel. Check that out. It's really entertaining. They actually got a plug for it on Dynamite, which I thought was really good. So we're going to start off with Dark. AEW Dark, obviously now, because of what's been going on, is been a lot shorter than it normally was. Usually it went for about an hour, had anywhere from 3 to 4 matches on it, obviously as dark matches to the Dynamite episode of the week previous. Now they've been cutting it down to anywhere from 1 to 2, I think maybe as many as 3 matches, but even then they're usually short, about a half hour per episode now, making sense because of the situation. So we have Tony and Cody on commentary. I really enjoy Cody's commentary. He throws a lot of old school references, many that I don't know that I actually have to look up, but Schiavone, Tony Schiavone, actually really enjoys them, so that's pretty funny. So the first match that we have is Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford. Anna Jay, a recent signee to AEW. She, I believe, is from the school that QT Marshall owns. But yeah, she looks great. She has kind of like a Zatanna cosplay type to her outfit, which Cody, being a big nerd that he is, made reference to it. She's tall. She's incredibly fit, really good in the ring. Her first match she had against Sheeta was really good. I guess that was what impressed them and had her signed. And I think they said she's only 21 years old, so she has a lot of potential and a lot of room to get better, which is great. Obviously, Ford came out with Kip Sabian. They are recently engaged. Mazel tov. They've been pushing Ford. Obviously, they gave her a big win against Riho. And they obviously, because of the situation, she's able to be down there. So she gets a lot more play on TV, whether it's in Kip Sabian's corner or matches for herself, which is good because she is a great performer. And I really do enjoy her work. So typical match, nothing too crazy. Obviously, Kip came with a distraction. Then Ford was able to get a handspring elbow, her back handspring elbow spot that she does. More offense going back and forth. Finally, there's a missed handspring. Anna Jay is able to get some offense in on herself. But unfortunately, she goes for a lariat bridge by Ford, who evades it, hits her with the cutter, and then the fisherman suplex for the win. And that's pretty much it for that match. Ford, obviously, they're going to keep pushing her, as they should. And then we get a Joe Alonzo versus Cody. Cody leaves the commentary desk to have this match. Joe Alonzo, he alluded earlier that Joe Alonzo is friends with the Inner Circle. I don't know because I didn't see any kind of references to that, nor has anyone from the Inner Circle mentioned that. So I'll take Cody's word for it, or maybe that's just for storyline purposes. I don't know. This was a pretty standard match. Back and forth. Gave him a little bit of. Cody gave Alonzo a little bit of offense in the beginning. Eventually, Alonzo tries to hit a cutter, shows absolutely no sells it by Cody. Hits him with the pump kick. Tries to go for a crossroads, but actually Joe Alonzo counters. a little more offense, and then Cody hits what they call the Gale Lock, which is kind of like a version of the sharpshooter. And yeah, Alonzo taps out, and they end up shaking hands at the end of it. And it was a good episode, 2 good matches. Obviously one was kind of enhancement talent with Alonzo. Anna Jay is a new assignee, so I look forward to seeing what else they do with her. I'm not sure if she's a heel or a face. Obviously, she worked face in that match. But I've also seen her on the side of Dynamite, on the sidelines where they have some of the wrestlers from the schools there. But I believe she was on the heel side another time, so I really don't know where they're going with that. But, we'll see. And on to Dynamite. Putting my notes away. So we start off with a pretty cheesy Cody hacker, gamer setup with all the computer screens, and he's kind of doing a preview of all the participants that are still left in the TNT tournament, championship tournament. It was pretty cheesy, but Cody loves that stuff, and that's fine. Jericho and Tony back on commentary. I love Jericho. He is hilarious. He is in full-blown character, but he does offer meaningful commentary as well. It's not all just jokey. So I really do appreciate that. So the first match is actually a TNT qualifier of Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. These two have a really good rivalry going. I believe they've only had one singles match first. Darby actually won that, but they've met, obviously in brawls between Inner Circle and other people, and then obviously Darby's come to the aid of Cody, and they've also tagged against each other, where I believe he tagged with Cody one time and Mox another time. I'm not sure if the Cody one was against. I think that actually might have been against Butcher and the Blade, to be frank. So I wouldn't go for that one. But I know that he tagged with Mox, I believe, against the Inner Circle, and they've actually lost that. So in singles, Darby has the upper hand. In everything else, I think pretty much Sammy's had the upper hand. So they have promos for both of them, both Sammy and Darby Allin. Sammy just goes through his bona fides and say why he's the best. Darby usually has these really elaborate, highly produced promos. This one he had like a tractor, was pulling someone by their legs, wearing a Sammy Guevara mask, which is kind of funny. So Sammy comes to the ring. There's a Sean Spears on the sideline there with a sign that says he owes him money because they were obviously betting. That's kind of been a theme through all the last few Dynamites, that there's sideline betting because there's not much else to do, and it's only the wrestlers themselves as the audience. So, kind of funny there. Sammy attacks right away, even before the bell rings. Does a somersault, twisting plancha over the rope, hits Darby, goes to work on him. Bell hasn't rung yet, so therefore everything's anything goes. Sammy eventually pulls out a ladder and drapes it between the ring and the barricade, puts Darby on it, and goes for a splash, and absolutely crushes him. That ladder does not break, has no give, and it looked brutal. They go to commercial break, and then we finally get the match started during the commercial break. Then eventually, there's offense back and forth. Darby starts to mount some offense, and then he goes for Sammy Guevara's, I believe, right foot, pulls off his boot, and proceeds to give him an ankle lock. And obviously without the boot, there's less protection, and that was the theme of the match as far as Sammy goes. He had no boot, and he had to deliver all of his offense, kicks, off the top rope, running, anything without a shoe on. And Darby, every once in a while was able to capitalize and get him into like a grapevine, an ankle lock, even headbutting his ankle, whatever he could do. So Sammy gets enziguri with the no boot. Also gets a springboard cutter. Darby's actually bloody at this point. I wasn't sure if it was from his hand or his face. I couldn't really tell. On the outside, Darby has one of the best suicide dives. I think him and Phoenix have probably the best suicide dives I've ever seen. And he goes for one through the bottom rope, misses, and it's actually a funny line in commentary. Jericho goes, do you know what suicida means in Spanish? And Tony says, no. He goes, I don't know, but he almost committed suicide over there. It's pretty funny, just, I guess he had to be there. And then obviously a lot of references to Pineapple Pete, Suge Ray, I forget his name. But yeah, Jericho has now named him Pineapple Pete because of the shirt he wears. And if this guy has any brains, he's going to keep, maybe even change his name to Pineapple Pete or just continue to wear Pineapple Getup so that Jericho can keep putting him over. It'd be smart. Sammy Guevara hits a 630 splash. A 630 on Darby. Looked great. Unfortunately, Darby gets to the ropes. Doesn't kick out, but he gets to the ropes. He then tries a springboard coffin drop, which Sammy catches him, puts him in the rack, tries to go for the GTS, misses with the knee. Darby grabs the leg, sweeps the leg, puts him on the ground, and then hits what he calls the Last Supper, which is kind of like a grapevine fold-over matchbook pin combination, and hasn't lost with it. And it's actually a pretty interesting move. I've never seen it before. So he wins. Another win for Darby over Sammy. I'm interested now because, obviously now that pits Darby against Cody again. They've already had 2 singles matches. The first one went to a draw, which kind of put Darby Allin on the map. And then the second one, Cody won. So now, are they going to give Darby the win here and have him progress in the tournament? Is this going to be Cody's one to win because, obviously he can't challenge for the AEW title anymore after his loss to Jericho at the hands of MJF with the towel. I don't know. I mean, either way, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm optimistic about whichever way they decide to go. I kind of wish that Sammy got the win there, though, just because I think he could have used that win. I think Darby's incredibly over, and no matter what, even if it was by shenanigans, something, give him something to chase, because now this rivalry, it seems pretty one-sided at this point. So, I'm just curious how they'll go from there. But, we'll see. So next we get a broken Matt Hardy promo. He, in his broken persona, is saying that he challenged Jericho last week to a Elite Deletion match, and that the Hole of Ass had no response for it, and that he only saw the Bubbly Bunch, which is a segment with all the members of the Inner Circle. We get a new one today. I'll talk about that. And that the only one who actually spoke Matt Hardy's name was Sammy Guevara, who Matt Hardy calls a fraud Latino. So he challenges Sammy Guevara to a match instead to have him come to the compound. Okay, I mean, if Sammy Guevara goes there, that would be pretty funny. I don't know what's going to end up happening with that. But then Matt Hardy and his inner, persona, Damascus, or the spirit within him, Damascus, saw that he was afraid. So that instead of, having Damascus be the one to talk to Jericho, he said, maybe you should talk to the vessel that is Matt Hardy. So there's a quick swipe. Next thing you know, we have regular Matt Hardy, and Matt Hardy challenges him to a match, calling Jericho a megalomaniac, and that he's trying to take out and be on top of AEW, but that AEW is not his platform. It's a platform for the future. That's what they're doing. That's what he believes that AEW is that this is the future. This is what they're trying to do, and that the young stars need to rise up, and that someone like Jericho is keeping them down. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get where he's going with that, and that it's, maybe that's a way to rile Jericho up and get him to eventually, consent to a match. Jericho's not happy about that when we go back to commentary. Next we get a cool segment, kind of bringing this more toward the sports-centric atmosphere, which is what AEW promised kind of at its inception, was that they were going to be more sports-oriented. So we have a segment where Taz is actually breaking down 2 of Kenny's moves, both the V-trigger and the Snapdragon suplex, kind of showing, how he does it, why it's so effective, where does it really do the most damage on the opponent's body. I liked it. I mean, some of it was self-explanatory, by just watching the maneuver, but, just having Taz and his experience, and he's just very eloquent in the way he speaks about movesets and things like that, so I appreciated that. Okay, so next, segueing from Kenny's move breakdown, we get Kenny Omega versus Alan Angels. I know I've seen people have a little problem with this because Kenny Omega, maybe gave more offense to Alan Angels than he should have. I mean, the match itself was only a few minutes, so I don't really see an issue with it. Obviously, he's not training the same way because of what's going on. So I really didn't have a problem with this. Giving someone an opportunity to get a few moves in. Maybe this guy is very good, and they want to give him a little bit of a showcase. Maybe he'll eventually be signed. Who knows? I don't see the big complaint to this. Jericho has a very funny line where he says Alan Angels is called Yeah Boy or Ya Boy, and that's actually a drink he created, which is just vodka on the rocks, which is pretty funny. He loves to call Kenny a pumpkin-headed dipshit, also very funny. But he actually does respect Kenny. He puts him over a lot, saying that the first match they ever had was a classic, and that he's from the land of milk and honey, Winnipeg, and that he's the second most famous person from Winnipeg, aside from himself, which was it was pretty good. I like that. Jericho, he rags on everybody, but he gives respect when it's due to whoever. Even if it's his mortal enemy, like when he was feuding with Cody, he hates Cody, but he always puts Cody over. So that's, I like that. Pretty much, some offense back and forth. Eventually, he kicks out a 1V trigger, second V trigger for the win. Doesn't even need the one-winged angel. That's why I don't think it's that big of a deal. He didn't even have to go to his primary finisher. It's just his secondary move, which is the V trigger, and he won with it. I thought it was fine. Kenny keeps going. I think Kenny is one of the best, and I don't think this hurt him in any way, shape, or form. Next, we get a Scorpio Sky promo. I like this a lot. I like Scorpio Sky. I think he's great. I think eventually he's going to get a singles run. I mean, this is not, anything that anyone else who talks about this kind of stuff would say. Obviously, he's a great performer, and obviously in SCU, Kazarian and Daniels are on the older side. So it just seems that eventually Scorpio is going to break out his own. They gave him a little bit of a push early when they had that match with Jericho, when he pinned him in a tag match and then gave him the match after that, and he put up a really great performance, obviously losing to Jericho, but it was pretty good. He always wanted to be a wrestler, and then in 2008, 2009 he had a significant back injury to the point where doctors said that he may never wrestle again, and he said that he didn't believe it, that he could be held down. He ended up going to his mother's grave, which is pretty touching, and just talking to her and saying, let's give this one more try. And, the rest is history from there. And I think he said in 2013 he formed SCU with Kazarian and Daniels, and that's where we got a to be continued, so I guess we're going to get a couple of these. I don't know if it's going to be a SCU-centric or a Scorpio Sky that involves SCU segment next week. Either way, I really enjoy this. I think this is smart. If they do this with multiple people, kind of giving, people like an insight into the performers. They've been trying to do that. But obviously, AEW is a young, up-and-coming federation here, organization, whatever you want to call it. And, people that are coming in from WWE don't necessarily know all these people. They know, obviously, Mox, they know Jericho, they know Matt Hardy, they know Dustin, they know the guys that came from there, Luke Harper, but, and maybe they've heard of the Young Bucks and the Elite, but there are plenty of other people within AEW that just have not gotten the shine outside the Indies or, Ring of Honor or New Japan. So, these segments here are kind of really good. They're well produced. That's something I've always enjoyed about AEW is they really, for the most part, they put the time and energy into producing a lot of these segments, and it really shines through and gives you a good feel of who these people are, not just as in-ring competitors but as personalities, which is what you want because you want to build stars. That's one of the knocks that WWE's had for a long time, is that they're not building stars, they're just building people for the in-ring, and there's very few people that are going to be, recognizable outside. It's almost like the days of the big megastar are dead. I don't believe that necessarily, but I do see that, there's more people that need to kind of get the rub and get out there and in the eyes of the viewing audience. So, okay, so then we get a cut real quick to the Road 2 series, which is actually on AEW's YouTube account. Go to mine first. But what they do is they do this Road 2. Usually it's kind of like a few-minute segment before each Dynamite, kind of like just setting up if there's any storylines or anything like that. This week they had a quick vignette where Dustin left a voicemail for Cody saying that if he didn't beat Kip Sabian, he was going to retire, that this was one of the most important matches of his career, and that him being the TNT champion would be just absolutely the best thing for him, but probably one of the best things in his career, and that that he knows that he can beat Kip Sabian. He's so confident if he doesn't beat him, he'll retire. So we get that storyline part. Then we get a quick kind of plug for Being the Elite, episode 200. They kind of give all the highlights of it, which is really cool because that's the first time I've seen them really show BTE. I know that Excalibur and I believe Tony Schiavone have mentioned Being the Elite or things that happen on Being the Elite. Not very often, but often enough. This was really the first kind of this is what this is. So people who maybe not have tuned in yet and kind of wondering what this is, they'll see that and say, oh wow, there's a legit match going on between Matt and Nick Jackson. How did that happen? Why is that happening? What does this mean? So hopefully they'll tune in. Alright, next match is Jimmy Havoc versus freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy with the Best Friends. Orange Cassidy is just an absolute treasure. He's great. He's one of my favorites. That's pretty much it. Havoc comes out with a really quick start, a lot of offense, using Cassidy's jacket as a weapon against him, choking him with it. And Jericho was like, I always wondered why they didn't do that. They should. There's a lot of offense by Havoc, not much by Cassidy. He's just getting beat, which is, for the most part, he's kind of like an in spurts type of offensive wrestler. But I did appreciate Jericho mentioning that Havoc was having a little beef with Luther on AEW Dark, which was obviously before all the pandemic stuff happened. They were trying to start a possible feud between them. So they mentioned it in the sense to keep the feud kind of relevant, so that eventually once we go back to live tapings, we can kind of rekindle that and see what they do from there. I like that. Havoc gets a Death Valley Driver for a 2 count. He starts working on Cassidy's hands, where he puts his hands in his pockets, because Cassidy, usually puts his hands in his pockets and then performs some offense. Cassidy eventually breaks out. He hits him with a tilt-a-whirl DDT, and then he does I don't know if it's a lazy splash, a falling asleep splash, whatever it is, for a 2 count. They begin trading blows. Havoc tries to hit his Acid Rainmaker, which is basically a ripcord lariat. He misses that. Ford and Sabian come down, as they have now kind of formed some kind of alliance with Havoc. Obviously, both I believe being from England, so I'm sure they know each other and have had a lot of maybe tag teams or whatever. So Ford comes and distracts. Ford attempts to distract Cassidy. Best Friends come in to try and grab Ford off. Penelope Ford off the ring. She does a split, which distracts them, obviously. Kip Sabian then does a front flip over the rope, takes out Best Friends, but while that's going on, Havoc is actually distracted. Cassidy rolls him up with some kind of pinning combination for the win. Unfortunately, he starts to get beat down by Sabian and Havoc, but the Best Friends come and make the save. Orange Cassidy, his first win in AEW, which is kind of funny, but yes, that's it, his first win. All right. I'm going to keep this going. 24 minutes going so far. Not bad. So now we have an MJF promo, apparently from his rat's house, because he's so rich that even his rats have their own house. Sorry, just got to get a little more comfortable. There we go. I really got to do some more stuff in the background, maybe make it look nice, because all I got is those 2 things. From New York Comic Con, they were giving out posters during the AEW panel. Hangman Page, Jurassic Express. I really like them. I'm actually going to get this is just for the video. I want to get them framed and make them look nice and everything, because they are actually really cool artist drawings. I'd love to get them signed, but I don't know when I'll ever see them. Anyway, back to MJF. He apparently is now called his fans MJFs. Interesting, but that he suffered a hangnail while gambling the last time he was on Dynamite. Very serious injury, but that he will be back as soon as he can. So then we transition to his heater, Wardlow versus Lee Johnson, who's been on at least one other match, maybe two. One of the students at QT Marshall School. Absolute destruction. F10 for the win. There was also some kind of he was kind of draped on the ropes, hit him with a knee, looked vicious. Pretty much it. Lee Johnson had no shot. He was dead. We have a new Dark Order member joining. There was a promo of this guy who was his girlfriend break up with him. Excuse me. Then he turns out he's looking at highlights or I guess articles about him being a Heisman Trophy hopeful, but injured, suffering some kind of injury that took him out of the race. He's now known as number 10. I forgot to look up his name, but he is a actual athlete, and he was highly touted in college, I believe, and did suffer an injury, so I believe this is all legit. And we then see a back and forth between him and Brody Lee, like an interview process and a recruitment process. And so now we have a new member of the Dark Order. I guess, or he'll, maybe they'll give him a little more burn than 8 and 9 did when they got destroyed, or 7 or 8 or whatever they were. So we have that. Then we have a Brody Lee versus Justin Law match. Justin Law, man, he looks like he's 16 years old. I hope they checked his ID before he came in there. They gave a bunch of shots to Marco Stunt, who was on the sidelines kind of watching this match. Obviously, he's Dark Order's tried to recruit him in the past. So this was another one of the squash matches. Discus Lariat for the win. Stare down with Marco Stunt as he leaves. And then we get a best friends interview. This was great. They're in the weight room of wherever they're at. And Trent, very, monotone, very cool, calm, collected, saying, do I want to fight Penelope Ford? And you expect him to say no, but he says, yes. Can I do it legally? No. Which, if we're going to get technical, we can have an intergender match if he was to get another female competitor, or if Penelope just wanted to, do him and her and Kip Sabian versus best friends, they could do that. It could be signed. So, but I digress. He's pretty upset. He said, this is when I'm serious. This is when I'm angry. Chuck E. T's like, when he's silent, you're gonna die. So he says, I'll probably just fight either your boyfriend or fiance and Jimmy Havoc too, just because. Which we're gonna get a match, obviously, between them. And we're also going to get a Brody Lee versus Marco Stunt match next week. I'm interested to see where they go there. Do they try to do the recruitment angle there? Obviously, Marco Stunt's not going to win that match, so we'll see what happens. The double main event for next week will be the 2 semifinal matches for the TNT Championship Tournament. We get now a new installment of the Bubbly Bunch, which is just a kind of Brady Bunch type telephone segment with all the members of the Inner Circle. This week, Sammy is very upset because Jake Hager did not win his match against Mox. And to cheer him up, they say, let's do a flim flam, which at first I thought was a legit thing because, I'm not always up on all the newest trends. It was a play off TikTok. So they did a video where each one of them is dancing. And the winner, Chris Jericho said, would get a bottle of hand sanitizer. And so they all start doing their dances, this, whatever. That's as far as I'm going to go on that. And then Sammy, of course, is very athletic, so he does some of this, does a backflip, does a handstand, a twirl, kind of like a tranquilo pose, and everyone's impressed by it, except Jericho. He's a little upset because he looks like Sammy kind of showed him up. And he's like, well, here's your hand sanitizer, Sammy. And he throws it at the phone as if, like, through osmosis, he's going to give it to Sammy. He clearly was upset. But I believe that, that's just for the bit there. He wouldn't actually harbor any ill will towards Sammy going forward. And so if we finally get our main event, which is Kip Sabian versus Dustin Rhodes in the quarterfinals of the TNT Championship Tournament. We get pre-match promos between the both of them. Sabian won and Dustin won. Dustin obviously says once again that, if he can't win, he's going to retire. Early on, Sabian goes after the knee, and that turns out to be kind of where he goes throughout the match, always going after the knee. Dustin selling the knee, not being able to run the ropes properly, or if he does any kind of moves that involve him, landing on his knees, he's in extra pain. So there was that. But Kip is getting most of the offense in, but he's not able to put Dustin away. He's showing more and more frustration as it's going on. Eventually, Dustin mounts some offense, does a snap suplex. Jericho says one of the best in the business for a 2 count. He goes... so then Sabian does a really cool outside to inside springboard, tilt-a-whirl DDT, really good. But he's showing more frustration because he can't put Dustin away. So then you get to the point where he just starts beating on Dustin, relentlessly. Aubrey literally has to physically pull him off twice because, he's endangering himself of getting disqualified. And Aubrey Edwards, the referee, doesn't want to disqualify him because she doesn't want the match to end, that way. So then Penelope Ford tries to get involved. Brandy Rhodes, obviously coming out with Dustin, kind of stops her, pulls her out of the ring. She gets back into the ring. They both run at each other. Brandy hits her with the spear. They both go outside. Kip Sabian is actually distracted because he sees that, Brandy speared Ford going to the outside. So Dustin takes advantage of that, runs against the ropes, does a kind of running destroyer, and ends up getting the win. So he doesn't do any other moves, the Reckoning or anything else, just simple destroyer. I mean, it's not simple. It's it's a great move, and then someone at Dustin's age, 50 years old, being able to do a destroyer is incredibly impressive. Even though they were calling it a code red on commentary, but it's a destroyer. So we now have Cody versus Darby Allin versus Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes. And that's going to be the double main event for next week. I'm very interested because there's so many different storylines going in there. There's the obviously Cody versus Darby 3. So there's that. Then there's obviously Lance Archer, who with Jake Roberts has been going after Cody, but obviously by proxy will be Dustin because Dustin is the older brother. And no matter who wins, whether it's Archer or Dustin, I predict Archer just because Archer is a monster, unless there's shenanigans of some sort. So then Archer, is he going to have his match with Cody like, he and Jake Roberts wanted? Or is it going to be a rematch of Dustin and Cody again from, I believe, was that Revolution? I believe it was Revolution. That just absolute classic match. Or was it Double? It might have been Double or Nothing, actually. The match where they were just completely bloodied. It was just a wild match. Or, do they give Darby the rub here, and then Darby goes up against either Archer or Dustin, and I almost don't see Darby winning the championship if he was to beat Cody. I would give more of the edge to whoever's on the other side of the bracket there. But anyway, like I did with my WWE video, I am going to do at the end of each one of these episodes the match of the week. I think I got it right this time, but we'll see. So for this week, both episodes were good. I enjoyed them. There wasn't like any kind of monumental storyline stuff going on. Obviously, there was more so on the WWE side. I give the slight edge to WWE this week. Obviously, because one, they have 3 shows, so they have more opportunities. But obviously we're seeing kind of the, how much they can really do with the talent that they have and the no crowds. But my match of the week is going to be Sammy versus Darby Allin. Again, I mean, they're 2 of the best competitors. They're 2 of the best young competitors, 2 of the best high-flying competitors in all of AEW, maybe in all of wrestling, and every match they bring it. Obviously, they have history, so you can see that, the storytelling in the ring between them, and that Darby, can take a beating, like, unbelievably better than most people, and especially for his size. And obviously, he has to take advantage of his skill, his speed, his quickness, and his intelligence as an in-ring performer, which a lot of people kind of overlook because they only see just all the death-defying things he does, but that he is actually very technically sound and was able to, get Sammy with that Last Supper pin combination for the win. So that is going to be my match of the week, Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. Darby Allin winning and advancing to the semifinals of the TNT Championship Tournament. So once again, this is my AEW week in review for AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite. BTE I'll do next week because this week I already reviewed it. Episode 1, check that out. Then check these out. Obviously, if you haven't seen Dark or Dynamite first, watch those. Then you can watch and see my thoughts. Or if you just want to get a quick idea of what happened, I can give you that. I'm going to be putting time codes. I didn't say that in my first weekend review for WWE. I'll put in time codes for both Dark and for Dynamite. That way, if you want to avoid spoilers or if you're just interested in hearing my thoughts on one particular show, I'll do that. And so once again, like, share, subscribe to my channel, add me on my social media there. Cronus is me, 1 E for Instagram, 2 E's for Twitter. I think I got that right. And yeah, so until next week, which is in a few days, stay safe, social distance if you have to, be safe if you have to go out. We'll get through this. Hopefully I can provide you with a little bit of entertainment. If nothing else, I'm providing myself with some entertainment and killing some time so that I just don't sit around all day. And as I said, I'll be trying to do some more stuff eventually besides professional wrestling, but I love it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Anyway, bye now. Hey, Marty. Yeah, Sean? So, this week on BTE, they kind of did an homage to the barbershop. I know, I saw it. I gotta tell you, Matt looked a little better going through the window than you did. Are you serious? Yeah. You no good, lazy eye.